Welcome back to the channel. Today I thought I would do a quick how to change / rotate the blades on the Landroid video. This is the S300 model, which is the base model. I don't think it makes a difference between models. I imagine they're all the same arrangement on the bottom. Before we start, first thing is to remove the battery. You obviously don't want it randomly starting up when you're around the blades. So, if you've seen the previous video, or the previous set of videos, we've just done a first cut / long grass series where he was set off into the garden for the first time in the year. Grass started about this long, which is obviously way too long, but he's now sorted that all out. So go back and watch that if you want to. But I said in that I generally leave the previous year's blades on for the first sort of cut, simply because there's so many leaves and twigs in the soil, not in the soil, sorry, in the grass, that they get blunted anyway, and therefore there's no point wasting new blades. I did end up changing the blades halfway through that just to give him a helping hand with the long grass, so now we're just going to rotate them, but I'll show you the process for changing them anyway. I kept the old ones just so you could see the state of them. They weren't awful, but they were just sort of tarnished and dulled and sort of got enough grub on them that they were making the fact that the grass was getting caught around the blades worse, because they had a bit more sort of texture to them. So those are the old ones. When you buy blades, you obviously you change them in a set of 3, which you can probably see. There are 3 blades, and then depending on where you get them from, most of them have 2 mounting holes, because you can mount them either way round, meaning that you use one side and then the other of the razor blade. You then normally also get new screws with the sets of blades as well. So I will take these off and clean it up. As you can see, and I mentioned this again in the previous video, there's quite a lot of grass caught around the hinges of the blades, so it sort of prevents them swivelling particularly freely, so the grass caught around here. So I'll take them off and I'll show you, because that is a thing that seems to generally happen anyway throughout the year, but it seems to have happened more with this long grass experiment. So you don't need any special tools. I've just got my penknife with a screwdriver on it here. Obviously just a case of being gentle and not slicing your hand open. Unscrew them in the normal direction. And they shouldn't be too tight, because the maximum tightness still allows for them to swivel where they're placed, so that they can swing in and out as they hit objects. I'm going to reuse the screws that I've got here. So I only put them in probably about a week ago now. So they're new screws still, and as I said, I'm just rotating the blades, but it's the same process for changing them. I don't know if you're supposed to get a tool to lock this as you do it. You probably do, but I don't know. Seems like a thing that would be sensible, but I'm not sure if you do or not. You obviously don't need it, but it would be sensible to use if it is a thing, and if you do have one. I'm assuming if it is a thing, it comes with the Landroid, and that I've lost it. Yeah, these should come off nice and easily. There'll obviously be a good amount of grass debris around and in and on everything, particularly if they've been there for a while. There we go. So that is all 3 screws off, and then they should just lift off. You'll see that's what I was talking about in the previous video, with the grass sort of wrapping around and getting caught. When it's a bit longer. Normally, obviously, you're only taking a couple of mil off at a time, so you don't get that so much. You just get a general grimy build-up. Yeah, that has stopped. Well, that has happened more with the long grass experiment than it normally does. So I'm just going to pick that off of all of them. And all of the blades are on a little sort of mounting post which creates the gap for them to swivel when the screw is tight. So it's nice and easy to judge how tight to do it, because you're just doing what seems comfortable, and then it's sort of built in the fact that they can move freely. Obviously, so long as there's not too much grub around them. And then what you will get through the year as well is just this general griminess building up around these, so you'll just have to remove it just with a screwdriver or something, because that'll stop the swivelling happening so freely. So just sort of general grassy grub, so I'll remove that as well. Doesn't take long, it's just if you don't do it they jam, and then you either get one, all this horrible sort of crud, you either get one blade knocked in and the other's out, which makes the whole thing vibrate, or you get them all knocked in which case you don't get much cutting. So we're not going immaculate here, we're just going a sensible amount so that it can all, you know, move freely again. Just paying attention to these sort of areas where there should be movement, making sure they're all nicely cleaned off. So, with, as I said this time, you can see, I mean, hopefully you can see which hole the original screws were through, so it's this one here. So I'm now, all I'm going to do to flip them is screw through the other hole, which will make them essentially flip and use the other side of the blade. So you just set them down onto the little post there, and they sort of wedge on vaguely firmly. I think if they're too firm, then you need to clean more grub off, because that is the firmness that they're going to have once screwed up as well. So it needs to be able to rotate, as it is. What we've got here is we've got grass on the inside of the clean hole, or the new hole on the blade, which is obviously making the hole sort of a bit smaller. There we go, that's a bit better, that one. And now moves nice and freely. So I'm going to place them all on, and then I'll screw them all up afterwards. Yeah, they've all got this grass sort of poking through and caught in the unused hole, so you'll have to watch out for that, particularly if they've done a first cut like these ones have. That one's good. Not quite so bad. And there we go. So they're all on, and then it's just a case of screwing them up, being gentle with the threads. As I said, you get new screws, but you don't get a new disc with the threads in it. So obviously be careful with that. I'm sure you can. There are screws to remove it if it needs replacing, but that would be another purchase, which shouldn't be necessary so long as you're careful with these threads. I think they're metal threaded, so fairly robust. And as you can see, the screws should go in fairly easily. You know, you should be able to finger tighten them all the way up to the last point. Obviously, being very careful not to cut yourself on the blades. So there you go. I will just pause the video whilst I screw those up with the screwdriver wherever it's gone, and I'll resume in just a second. Okay, there we go. So that's all tightened apart from this one. Just wanted to show you, it's just sort of hand tightened to about what feels sort of firm, and they should have a little bit of wiggle still and be able to move freely, so that they can do their swinging around. Just going to remove this grass here with the pliers, and I'll come back again. There we go, all ready to go back out. I will put a link below for the an Amazon link for sets of blades.